transferred to their den of thieves and the Bank of International Settlements. Congress may take back the constitutional power over the monetary gold of the people of the United States, will, like the sons of the people, be buried in a foreign field. Mr. Chairman, if you, as one of the parties in power, are thinking of remaking the world so that the old America we knew and loved is to be no more, if you are one of those who is countenancing the placing of this country under the British Crown and the pooling of all American resources, which are with those of England and Soviet Russia, and if you are one of those whom the title of nobility appears to be more desirable than plain citizenship in the republic founded by George Washington, I trust that you will someday descend from the speaker's chair and let us know the reasons for your preference. And if, on the other hand, you are not one of those words depict, I trust that you will come down to the floor and tell us how constitutional government is to be maintained in this country if the plurocratic managers of the Democratic Party continue their efforts to destroy it. You, if any, should be able to give the people of the United States an answer to this question. And under this administration, the result of the American Revolution has been reversed. The United States has become an economic vassal of Great Britain, the once proud Republic of the United States, with its great Charter of Human Freedoms, the Declaration of Independence, and its written Constitution, which had kept it free and independent for over 140 years, and its flag, first made by the hands of Betsy Ross in Philadelphia, and its national anthem, born within its earshot of the British guns that shelled Fort McHenry, all these, like the American dollar, were brought down from their high estate. Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Mr. Chairman, we know very well that you cannot see that the flag there as it used to be. Others started very cautiously to pull it down. But it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt in his unlawful and unconstitutional assumption of dictatorial powers who finally lowered it and tore it from its standard. Now that the gold bill is explained and the reader knows why he turned in his gold and what became of it, what about the soldier's bonus we used to hear so much about? Have our congressmen forgotten the boys that made the world safe for democracy, or was it safe for money changers? We as a nation are plagued by law to pay them their bonus or compensation certificates in 1945, and they surely need it now if they ever will. Will the reader please remember that President Lincoln issued $60 million in full legal tender, greenbacks, and paid his soldiers? Would the reader like to some real authority on this subject? Then listen to Robert H. Hempel, financial authority and editorial writer on financial matters in the Hearst papers, and a really profound student on such matters. In writings in the Hearst papers of March the 17th, 1934, Mr. Hempel has the following to say, quote unquote, sound money. During the month of February 1934, we imported 371,347,100,000 in gold. We paid for it with quote unquote fiat money, treasury notes of the United States, printing press money, paper money, greenbacks, irredeemable in gold, silver, or any specific metal, lawful money of the United States, fiat money in every sense of the word. We have now no other kind of currency. It is the best, or is it the best money in the world? Despite the unlimited quantity offered in exchange for gold, and the threat inherent in our huge secret stabilization fund, it has been so far almost impossible to prevent our fiat money from commanding a constant premium over its theoretical par in exchange for the most prized possession of European nations, their gold. It is very important to remember this. We are rapidly approaching the situation where the government must issue additional currency. It will very soon be the only move remaining. It should have been the first step in the recovery program. Immediately upon a revival of demand that the government increase the supply of currency, we shall again be subject to a barrage of skillfully designed and cunningly calculated propaganda by means of which a small group of international bankers have been able for 2 centuries to frighten the people of the civilized world and would against issuing their own good money in sufficient quantities to carry on their necessary commerce. By this simple but amazingly successful device, these money changers, parasites in the busy world intent on creating and exchanging wealth, have been able to preserve for their private and exclusive right the monopoly of manufacturing an inferior substitute for the money which they have hypnotized civilized nations into using because of their pressing need to exchange goods for services. And we shall never recover our credit. Even if it were obtainable, it is uncertain, unreliable, does not expand in accordance with demand, and contracts unexpectedly and for causes unrelated to the needs of commerce and industry. Demand deposits cannot be loaned to commerce and industry. Many bankers have known this for a long time. It required this depression and the complete freezing of the whole banking system to teach the rest, but with very few exceptions, they have all learned. And I am convinced that the NRA experiment is running into a jam, and it has developed into a wholly different doctrine than the original conception. And having failed to stipulate recovery, the present idea is to distribute the pre- or non-existing profits from one group to another. And under any system of reasoning, the purchasing power, however, will remain the same. And instead of providing for expansion, which means the creation and exchange of more wealth, its underlying philosophy is the creation and exchange of less wealth. It is difficult to believe adult human beings at any stage in its development of civilization could be led into serious consideration of a system founded on such an absurd doctrine. We need in circulation $250 per capita in permanent, uncontractable currency, deposited in depositories and payable on demand to sustain a standard of living to which we had arrived in 1927 to 1929. To pay the then prevailing prices, wages, and costs, to produce incomes and to restore the property values of that period. It makes no difference how this currency is put into circulation. We all producers, and we all likewise, all consumers, each one of us buys from all of the others. If 1,000 million of new currency is thrown into circulation, anywhere in the system, it becomes almost immediately distributed throughout the nation. It increases the transaction of the nation, an average of 36,000 million per year, and because we all buy the same things in the same order of preference, our business increases in the normal manner. First, the necessities of life, next, the necessary luxuries, and lastly, capital goods. And we are all so anxious to produce and trade our products, our goods and our services with our neighbors that we will accept almost any kind of money which we have a fair chance of off-passing on for other things that we want. And in our present situation, the issue of additional currency is the only way out. Is there any good reason that the Congress cannot or should not do this now, or pass a bill to remonetize silver Is there any reason why that should not be done either? Yes, dear reader, there is. And that reason is the control of your whole country by the foreign money changers through the Federal Reserve System of banks that have the power to issue unlimited amounts of their own greenbacks redeemable by their government, and to withhold loans and call loans and inflate and deflate the currency and the country at their own pleasure and for their own profit. How long, O God, will the American people stand for such a condition, when all they need is a safe, sane, reasonable plan for economic security and, quote-unquote, united action to put into operation? And after this country was forced into bankruptcy, financial slavery, war was declared on the American people. This country has been destroyed from within, first by taking over the finances, and then by taking over and possessing the United States government. And the presidency was taken over when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was elected. And through him, the banks were able to declare war on the American people and to enslave them through the social programs that were enacted by Congress. And Congress went along to get along. And the majority of these men were lawyers, and they sold out the American people. And because voting is a privilege and not a right, and proves your membership in the metaverse, had the legal right, but not the moral right, to enact legislation that made every American that voted for that Congress an alien enemy, which is a legal term which simply means that you have been declared an enemy of the United States and the bankers because the citizens of 1933 voted on the government officials that took this action, and because the association, they were responsible. However, according to the law, of the children of these American alien enemies have the right to remain alien enemies, or could elect to no longer be an alien enemy. To remain an alien enemy means to continue receiving benefits given by the government. To see what these benefits are, we read A Country Defeated in Victory, Part 1. To discontinue being an alien enemy means to stop taking the government's benefits. Now, will this rejection of the benefits stop the government from forcing you to be a slave? This is doubtful, because the men that created the conditions of your slavery still wish you to be a slave. And their purpose is to establish a one-world government. And these men, those who replace them, are still in power and control every aspect of your life. And they will not give up a slave just because the slave no longer wishes to be a slave. So what is the purpose of resisting your enslavement? Should we do as Congress did and go along to get along? And let me ask you this: did our anti-federalist forefathers give up or give in for financial comfort? No. If you believe in God Almighty and have received a redemption, or the redemptive blood of Jesus Christ, His Son, and you also believe that the Bible is the living Word of God Almighty, you also must know that this is not possible to serve two masters. Either you serve God Almighty or man, Jesus, in the book of Revelation 20:4. Those who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and not received the mark upon their forehead and upon their hand, and they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. And the reward for rejecting Babylon, the mark of the beast, is to reign with Jesus Christ for 1,000 years. So if you choose to be an alien enemy, be aware that there are consequences to your actions. The legal term, quote-unquote, alien enemies, is defined in the following pages. And the following is a quote from the Congressman James Beck. And I think all the damnable heresies that have ever been suggested in connection with the Constitution, the doctrine of emergency, is the worst. And it means that when Congress declares an emergency, there is no Constitution. This means it's death. But the Constitution of the United States has a restraining influence in keeping the federal government within its carefully prescribed channels of power, is moribund, if not dead. And we are witnessing its death agonies. For when this bill becomes a law, if unhappily it becomes law, there is no longer any workable Constitution to keep the Congress within the limits of its constitutional powers. That's Congressman James Beck in the Congressional Record of 1933. And this ends Louis McFadden's comments as read for the record in the House of Representatives, the Congress of the United States. Now let's come up to current times. Make sure you're taking notes. Now, I'm giving this to you in this sequence. I'm giving you to, and make sure everybody got a copy of that, please. Yeah. Same thing? Yes, they're all same thing. Make sure everybody has a copy. Now, I'm going to read Tropicon's speech. Stand nearby because I'm going to call you in a minute.
I got you. I'll come back.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to tell them.
Yeah, no, I want you to get another, because it's going to be it's important because it's one of the issues that come up.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to read Tropicon's speech. Now, as you know, we read the Secret Treaty of Verona, and we read one of Louis McFadden's speeches on the House of Representatives, and that was of 1934, and he was referencing what Franklin Delano Roosevelt did in 1933. All right? And now we're going to read Tropicon's speech in 1993 in reference to the same matters. Are we clear?
Yes.
Now remember what we read in the Secret Treaty of Verona, and the reason I'm taking the time to read more complete information because I'm recognizing that a lot of people didn't follow up with homework. But you need to know why certain statements are made. But this is also to give you a more solid informational background as to the nature of the Moorish Divine and National Movement and its real cause of the redemption of your birthright. Because as many subject matters that we're talking about is essentially your estate, which is what they're creating all these T-bonds on and selling around the world. So as I'm reading these hypothecation issues, what a lot of the Asiatics don't know is that it's directly tied to you, and it is the foundation of what you've been calling all these years by virtue of your Negro leader preacher guys, racism, prejudice, and all your lynchings and everything else has actually been a genocide initiative under the Secret Treaty of Verona to both rob your estate and then eliminate the true heir or creditor, the true creditor. While others are claiming to be the creditors and the sovereigns, those who have made the claim are not. This is why Noble Drawley set up the old Canaanite temple to bring the knowledge of your ancient forefathers back to you so that you can claim your estate. If you don't speak up, it is declared that you have abandoned your birthright. While you did not intentionally, the silence is tacit acquiescence. That's what they're using to claim that you have consented. And it's also what they're using to claim that you have abandoned your estate, all of which you have not. And the hypothecation instruments, the marriage certificate, the birth certificate, and the driver's license, is their claim that they're using to rob you and to triangulate the war machine against you from an abstract, then physical perspective. Constituting the hypothecation of your birthright, those three main instruments, not limited to them, but those are the three main instruments that are used to hypothecate both your estate, your body, your heirship. And so when you look at these instruments, understand how they're really used. But let's go on so that you can come from another angle to regain your lost estate on the physical plane, yet understanding it from a spiritual perspective and understanding that they're always dealing with both sides of the coin. Do you understand? Yeah. The abstract and the concrete at all times. And so the best way, not necessarily the best way, but a way to convince people who don't understand this stuff is to give you their own words so that you can stop being naive and think that they don't understand this. And that you can stop being naive and think that you got to convince them of who you are. And so that you can stop being naive and think that you need to convince them about you being a holder in due course of anything, because the whole reason why you're in this condition is because the secret treaty of Verona has been enforced on you for a couple hundred years that you've been calling racism and slavery. Your language has been wrong because you don't understand what's going on. The reason I'm being a little bit more thorough with this, even though it gets boring, is because you need to know what's coming from the mouths of the high priest who've been governing you as government, so that you can understand why Noble Drawleys did what he did. Why at the heart of the Divine National Movement he says, help me in my mission to bring my people back into the constitutional fold of government, enforcing our Constitution of the United States of North America. That document is a divine-oriented document built on divine law and nature's God. It is allodial in its character. It is not a democracy. The secret treaty of Verona and the operatives of the Knights, of the militia, of the Jesuit order, and Opus Dei is to overthrow this government. And that's what they've been doing. The fact that you didn't know that you're the real founders of the government, you stood by busy being black, thinking it belongs to the European. And then thinking that you were some Negro civil rights people that might be granted some Negro citizenship under the 14th Amendment, which misclassified you but also made you non-descendable. And then of course all of the false support information perpetrated by Negro agent preachers working for Rome under the 501c3 agreement with Skull and Bones member Lyndon Baines Johnson after they bumped Kennedy off, was to keep you under control and keep you marching in Negro circles, which also made you non-descendable. All of these principles are rooted in the secret treaty of Verona. You must know that to understand the operations of politics in North America, from North America, and imposed upon the civilized world. It is the root of all your economic, social, and political problems. Know it to be the truth. And thus, I speak the words of the high priests themselves so that you can see it is no mystery. Except that your Negro leader preacher guys took oaths in their different lodges not to reveal this information, so that the three ruffians could bang you upside the head, England, Ireland, and France, led by the Jesuit order of the Dark Knights for the militia of the popes of Rome, under the secret treaty of Verona in 1213, under Roman Emperor Innocent III, enforced by Thomas de Torquemada, i.e. the Spanish Inquisition against the Moors and the Jews, and you are them Moors and Jews. Do you understand? And the secret treaty of Verona is the foundation of all the secret societies of the dark side. Meaning the dark side and those in the light all got the same knowledge codified, but its use is of different purpose. Do you understand? So there's some that want to raise you, that's I-R, or I-A-I-S, right? E. And then there's some that want to raise you, and that's R-A-Z-E. And that's what you're suffering from, those who are raising you. R-A-Z-E. Are we clear? And this is why all of them use your Great Seal Pyramid, because that is the symbol of civilization on the earth, and they're claiming your estate, hoping that you don't wake up and claim your estate. Are we clear? So this is for you to be aware. Now, if you want to honor your mothers and fathers, you can. If you choose not to, that's fine too, but know you're going to get cooked. So the warning is out. All right? And it's no secret. It's not given to you in some allegorical story, some sign of symbol. It's told to you straight up. Take it as it is, because it is indeed the truth. Let's complete the triangle. United States of North America Speaker Republic Representative James Traficant Jr. of Ohio, addressing the House of Representatives, keep this in mind, and in context with the secret Treaty of Verona on the floor of Congress. And then Louis McFadden's speech in 1934 backed up Louis Traficant 1993 in reference to 1933 with Skull and Bones member Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and understanding the sequence, the operative sequence, and where you are today and why you must nationalize, because that's your only way out. Are we clear? Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11, and members of Congress are official trustees. Official trustees. Official trustees. Presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history, the U.S. government. We are setting forth, hopefully, a blueprint for our future, and there are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. Take all these statements into qualification based on what you know is already in place. Are we clear? It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act of March the 9th, 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt being bankrupt and insolvent, HJR 192, the 73rd Congress in session June the 5th, 1933, joint resolution to suspend the gold standard and abrogate the gold clause, dissolved the sovereign authority of the United States and the official capacities of all United States government officials, officers, and departments, and is further evidence that the United States federal government exists today in name only. Exists today in name only. Exists today in name only. The receivers of the United States bankruptcy are the international bankers via the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, and all United States offices, officials, and departments are now operating within a de facto status in name only under emergency war powers with the constitutional Republican form of government now dissolved. See the Treaty of Verona taking place? See it in operation? The receivers of the bankruptcy have adopted a new form of government for the United States, and this new form of government is known as a democracy. See where that came in? Before 1933, it did not exist. You see the activities of the Treaty of Verona? So how many people don't know when politicians are saying our democracy, they just reveal to you that they're knights for the popes of Rome to steal your birthright. See how important it is to know language? See how important it is to know history? See how easy it is to cast spells from the dark side of the priesthood and put the entire world to sleep? Now you understand what the Bible says? They deceived the whole world. Now you understand when it talked about these people not being able to buy or to sell without the mark or the number of the beast. Now you understand when the beast is devouring, waiting for the child to be born so it can devour. So we're coming from the abstract of the allegorical stories in the book of the Son and bringing it to the politics of the world in its operation. Are we clear? Breaking the mystery. But you must know how they think in order for you to know how to think. You know how they act in order for you to know how to proact as opposed to react. Are we clear? Thus Noble Drawley said, I want active Moors and not passive Moors. Are we clear? Now, the new form of government is known as a democracy, being an established socialist communist order under a new governor for America. And this act was instituted and established by transferring and or placing the office of the Secretary of the Treasury to that of the Governor of the International Monetary Fund. So you see, when the Inquisition Revenue Services, which is really disguised as the Internal Revenue Services, is really the Inquisition operations. Because the United States has no treasury. That's why you'll see the IRS put Department of the Treasury, because it's the popes of Rome. Now you understand who you're paying taxes to? Are we clear? And that's one of the world's best kept secrets. But it's out, ain't it? Yeah. Did you have to take an oath of death? Know you the truth, and the truth will set you free. And so now, that is done under Public Law 94-564, page 8, section HR 13955. And it reads in part, the United States Treasury Secretary of the Treasury receives no compensation for representing the United States. Why does he not receive compensation for representing the United States? Two reasons. The United States is dissolved. It's bankrupt, and the office doesn't exist. He's a front to keep you in the mystery, to keep you in faith, blind faith, operating with the fiat that comes from blind faith, as opposed to true religion and the money, which is the gold and the silver coin. See? Say it again.
The scripture says the gold is mine and the silver is mine.
Mm-hmm.
I have on 1,000 hills. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. She just made another tape. All right. You can expect 2 or 3 more. We're listening all the way up. Now also, after I read this, I'm going to have Sister Rosa Mariah, and I like to pick on her, so I call Rosa Mariah VPApublications.com, because she's so expansive that she's become the walking news for the nation, and highly appreciated. So when I call that, that's my little picking on her thing. That's in kind jest though. But she has a very strong dispensation of information to share with you. So when she comes up and speaks, please take notes, please pay close attention to what she's saying, because it's going to be in the direction of some remedies to some degree. And then we're going to have interchange, all right?
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm not going to read all of Traficon's speech. I'm going to go into another part to show you the hypothecation. Then I'm going to bring up Rosa Mariah, VPApublications.com, who hasn't had much rest. Because it is good, and we need the spirit of the mother to really, bring this egg together. Anyway, the Federal Reserve Act stipulated, and keep in mind when we're talking the Federal Reserve Act now, we're going back to Skull and Bones member Woodrow Wilson, 1913, who met with the representatives of the Jesuits, of the militia of the Jesuit Order of the Dark Knights, along with the European bankers of England, to carry out the Treaty of Verona in 1913 off Jekyll Island, off the state Georgia. Keep in mind, this counters Noble Drali setting up the old Canaanite temple, 1913. All these are correlatives. All right? Federal Reserve Act stipulated that the interest on the debt was to be paid in gold. And there was no stipulation in the Federal Reserve Act for ever paying the principal. Prior to 1913, most Americans owned clear allodial title. Clear allodial title. clear allodial title. That's ALLODIAL. Title to property. Free and clear of any liens or mortgages until the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 hypothecated all property within the federal United States to the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, in which the trustees, quote unquote, stockholders, held legal title. The United States citizen, the U.S. citizen, quote unquote, tenant, franchisee, was registered as, quote unquote, a beneficiary of the trust. Beneficiary of the trust. Beneficiary of the trust. Via his or her birth certificate. Triangulation, you see? In 1933, the federal United States hypothecated all of the present, and future. You got that?
Yes. Yes.
Properties, assets, and labor of their quote-unquote subjects, the 14th Amendment
Right.
U.S. citizen,
Right.
to the Federal Reserve System. Go back to the divine warning by the prophet for the nations that was set forth before this even took place. Now you understand why he's a prophet.
Yes. Yes.
He said the 14th and 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people and my citizens. And he says, if you don't believe that the program I have for the redemption of my people and citizens is correct, go to those who know law. That's the highest level of civic instruction. How dare these fake representatives tell the people that the prophet did not teach civics? Islam.
If I could add on, in that statement, he specifically said, go to those who know law in the city hall.
Yes.
And they will be glad to render you a favorable reply.
And yes, your government officials.
Yeah, and your government officials.
Yes.
But if anybody ever doubted that, with those proclamations that came out at the beginning of this fiscal year, you know, that was just affirmative to that statement.
Yes.
You know,
And
that's
then
what-
know that they came out because we sent an international proclamation to the world governments.
Indeed.
And it put them on the spot.
Exactly.
Which, as Ras Mariah said, you know, this is why Hillary's speaking with the Moorish flag. Appealing to the governments. Why? Because that's the real American flag, and they're burning embassies of this fake government. So they're trying to appeal, and she has, here we go. Also,
No. This is the real one.
yes,
Look
now
at
this
that.
is the full-fledged
Off of the
in the
YouTube.
Benjamin Franklin room.
They just gave you a little piece of it down there. That's the Benjamin Franklin room, 8th floor.
In the White House.
In the White House, yes.
Wow.
Do you understand? Why? Because they are the surety holders of the estate of the Moorish Empire, because you were at the Maghrib al-Aqsa, Morocco, the most extreme west, the North Gate, and they've been the keepers of the North Gate. And now they're being exposed because the heirs of the estate, the true creditors and donors, are standing up, and you're speaking up. And so when they speak to the rest of the world, they got to look like they're not maintaining human trafficking. Are we clear? Also, this is another country that we're trying to still trace its origin, where they got Noble Drawley's picture standing up. That's Noble Drawley's picture up there. And we got to figure out what country this is. But anyway, it says, every knee shall bow and every tongue will confess that unto us a prophet was born. We haven't found out what nation this is. but they're acknowledging Noble Drew Ali off these shores. Also, this is the brothers, etc., from the south gate of the north gate. Mexicans, it says,
If you
if you think I'm illegal because I'm a Mexican, learn the true history because I'm in my homeland. All right?
There was another one that was
Yes.
earlier that said, on cover time, I believe it was North, South,
Yes, can
Central
you
America.
come up here too?
Oh, no, I don't understand.
Brothers and
It said
sisters,
North,
Where's
South,
the mic?
Central America.
reverse because I want you to
Where's the
speak
mic?
to the camera. Brothers and sisters, yes, give her
Oh,
super duper
Mike.
mic.
Oh, that mic.
Yeah, now give
Oh,
the
I
mic.
got you. Oh, I
Now,
got you.
don't start singing right now. Anyway,
You
know, don't like.
You know we're supposed to sing
Oh, we
when
are?
we're not together and just,
Oh, we
the
are?
whole nation won't even know. They don't know you sing, they don't know I sing. You said we was gonna do that one day.
All right. Anyway, first of all,
I got nothing else to do.
a lot of the work, hold on just a minute, bro. A lot of work that's done around the country and a lot of the awakening for the people has been because she has stood up many sleepless nights with the help of her son, Michael.
Yes, yes.
Also, I'm going to talk about him next week. Anyway, and I want to acknowledge appreciation for the work, for the sacrifice, etc. Stand up just for a minute, Michael. A lot of times, yes, a lot of times when you hear people running their mouth, you don't recognize who's really behind the scenes making a lot of stuff work. So I want to give her a hand of honor, give him a hand of honor. All right, in the house of Ram, hit it, sis.
Yeah, well, actually,
Talk
you
with
got
the
all
field.
yours in there. No, you
Yes.
can take them all, because I can
Yeah.
always print them all. No, the brother asked me, we're going to be giving those away. Those are color prints on glossies, but you can go straight to YouTube, and all of those pictures I will have uploaded on the site. Matter of fact,
You'll be able to pull them down.
yeah, you'll be able to pull them down and print them out yourself.
In the video, too.
On the video, when she was speaking, when Hillary Clinton was speaking, she mentioned it's a 60-minute video, go to YouTube and just type in Hillary Clinton on Morocco and choose the one that's 16 minutes because it starts from the beginning. And the reason I'm telling you that from the beginning, there's a majestic scene as they have the camera way back here in the room. And then as she comes in the room to sit down, and when they have it way back, you see all the flags. And then as the camera's coming in closer, you've seen it? It's very majestic. It's like, wow. And you look at the three Moroccan, the flags and the three star-spangled banners. And you realize, as Taj said, that you can't talk international stuff without a national flag. And the rest of the world knows that the star-spangled banner is not a flag at all. And it's certainly not a national flag.
It's a trading banner.
It's a trading banner. So how's she going to come and talk to the international discussion without having a flag of the people? The flag of the people is the Moroccan flag, as has been stated for a long time by Taj. And what did the Prophet Noble Drew Ali do? He came and said, take the flag out. But what did they do? Everybody says the Star-Spangled Banner is the flag. It's not. It's what they said it was, and they made the song, the Star-Spangled Banner. Anyway.
They've been usurping you.
But we've waking up now. And so, know this.
Yes.
It's only because we Moors are waking up that all of this, we rise, they fall. Because the only reason they even survive is on our ignorance. So they survive off of our ignorance.
They live off our virtue.
They live off our virtue and our ignorance. To live off virtue and ignorance at the same time is real special, isn't it? And so it's time that, so now, and even with this picture of this flag, it's time for everyone to confess their own and worship, I call it worship, work their ship, right? Under their own vine and fig tree, for real. All of these things come into play, and they come as a revelation. And that's one other thing. When you're reading Prophet Noble Drew Ali's work, because I was one of those, remember times how you say, well, where are we getting this stuff at that he said? Where's the book that he said this? Because they're always quoting all this stuff. The reality is I always had the books of his work. It's in all the literature. It's just that it's spiritual. It's divine and national movement. So what happens is those things that you've already read doesn't come as a revelation to you until it's time for it to become a revelation to you. Then all of a sudden you find yourself repeating the things that he said that you really already read. But it only comes unveils to you at the time. The thing I wanted to share though, and you can help me out with this.
Yes.
Taj, when we first came here, Taj put up and started talking about the mortgage, because the mortgage,
Yes.
the whole mortgage thing flipped over and fell bottom, and everyone was saying it was fraud, and a lot of people still didn't understand really what was it that was going on. Whereas Taj really succinctly, and it's on the site, has the reconveyance letter, you know, you've all read it. It's real. Very, very real. You testify.
Very, very real.
Very, very, very real. Testify. You know what that means? It means grab your testicles. Women don't testify, only men do. That's why you never get a woman to admit it, right? That's what it means, really. It's in the Bible. It says, gird up your groin. That's testify. Yeah, your groin. Yours, right? I say groin. Anyway, all of that is very real. What it is I'm going to put it in this term, and then you'll be able to take it to the other place, because today was a serious revelation. I've been going to, and for my son, and I'm sure he's going to share his part there, I've been going to court with my sister for a while now in reference to this foreclosure attempt they had on her, as they have had on you and many people that you know or yourself sitting here. We all know that's what's going down, because they hypothesized all the mortgages, and they put, now here's what else they did, a lot of you may know this, they took insurance policies out because they knew that you couldn't afford the mortgage, that it was going to, right, the predatory loans, etc., etc. They are really greedy folk. So what they did was they took out insurance policies. The reason why they're so hot on you now, but you gotta stand on that square and know what you know and do what you do, is because they can't win. Nobody really wins, right? Unless it forecloses. So guess what? If we make sure we do what we do and stop the foreclosing, they're falling by the wayside for real, because this is the move that they made. So they're going to try to act like and come to you and act like they're the authority, as they have always done and got away with from before, right, sis? You know, but you know you mother, right? Okay. All right. So you have to realize that we're the law and they're not. They're this public service. So now they're coming to you as their mortgage company. Now, how does this happen? An insurance company, and you got to pay this and you didn't pay that. Okay, it's like this. You have a right to acquire property. It's in the Constitution. Right? Now, you already have it, really. It's hard to explain. So let's say you claim a property, the land, and whatever building is on the land is what the land is described as. It's already yours. So now, you have a right to do that, right? Now what they do is, they do the same thing, but they have a network of their boys. They're like, all right, well, you know, sign here, and you gotta pay insurance. Oh, you gotta get a title search over here. Oh, and you gotta have this other fire insurance, and you know you gotta have this flood insurance, and oh, you know you gotta do this, and you gotta do that, and all this stuff that you have to do, which is them looking out for their boys. That's all that is. So now everybody's got their hands in it. The whole plot is that they never, then they would sell it to you. So say I got an agreement with you of some property, you know, that you sold me or something. But then you go and you sell it to him. But it's mine. Because it's mine. You didn't pay for it. You don't own it, I do. So now you got to show, how did you give me, which is my property, the right for me to give it to him? To make any assignment. Which y'all want to back. How did you get the right to make an assignment? Where is that process? That's what the flaw is. Now, there was a European woman who went on the Rachel Maddow show and told all of America to stay in their house. Y'all recall. Sit there, be a squatter, so she's called it, until somebody shows you the right papers. And you all seen the 60-minute thing. I want you to know, as you may know, that is very real. You got to know what it's about. So with my sister, they have attempted to foreclose. But then, like everyone else, they put in a modification thing. Everybody got involved with the modification. The modification was that sure enough, you're gonna lose your house because you just signed it over to somebody. Then they went from there knowing that you were gonna leave your house. Well, look, I tell you what, I'll give you $2,000 to move. You know, depending on how big your house was, I'll give you $3,000 to move.
Yep.
All you want to do is get out of the house, one way or another, so they can just go in there and do this thing again. Because their thing was is they had to make sure it was foreclosed on. When you walked out of the house, there's no such thing as foreclosing law. If you went down to the state records, it does not say. Even if you're sitting here and you got so-called foreclosed on, go check the records. It doesn't say that. It says that you abandoned it.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It says that you abandoned it because guess what? You did. You walked out.
Right.
Under threat, duress, coercion, and all that, yeah. And lack of knowledge, right? Which is what they've been getting us with anyway. But the real deal is go to your state records. It will never say foreclosed because it is not lawful.
That's right.
It says you abandoned it and you did. So now you walked out. You're gone. Guess what they do when you walked out? They start the whole process all over again. Then they'll go sell it to somebody else at a reasonable mortgage rate. But the deal was is that that rate that they needed to have it foreclosed, they got that to happen because you left.
Right.
You quote unquote foreclosed, and they got paid insurance money. They bet that you would be foreclosed. They set it up. Now, all of this is unlawful, right?
Right.
If you understand the process, if you studied it, if you study the case laws that say so, it's this simple. This is how it simply works, and then you do your own study. As I started to say here, and then I'll ask you a question. If it's my property, and I sold it to you or whatever, and you're going to sell it to him, but it's not, it's still mine.
Right.
You got to show where I gave you the permission to give it to him.
Exactly.
That the title went from me to you, from you to him. This is what they failed to do. It's called assignment. Now here's the other click. They have to show that you had personal knowledge of this occurring, that one bank from the bank had personal knowledge, and check this out, it's like this. We want to know that you had that personal knowledge conversation, and that it was certified, and then we want to certify that it really did happen. Because that's the only way it could be.
Right.
There has to be permission to do this. They don't have the title. Now, we all in this room know why they don't have the title. Because the only title to the land is the L's, the B's, the D's, the Al's, and the Ali's.
Right.
No one of them, even if you did finish paying them, sis, you would never have gotten the title.
Right.
Let me tell you why. They don't possess it. You do. You feel me? You'd have never gotten the title. And that's what's recognized even now, even when you go to court, if people are going to court, that you're not going to get the title when they finish. You know why? Because they don't show where they ever had it themselves.
Right.
Then it all comes back to who are the true land, who are the title, who is the holder, who is truly the ones who own or have the ability to assign anything to anybody. It's none of them, and they know it, so they ran the scam and the game, and that's what they did to your estate. So now you're waking up, I'm in court today. It was a wonderful thing, because the person who's writing the documents is on it. They're so good that now you all have people in your family who are not conscious yet, or at least they're not, acting like it. Yeah, they still have faith in that other system.
Right.
They think that's all right.
Right.
So, but and that's how it was with my sister. But all of us, and Taj has always said it, you will move when you're in pain. When it seems like there's nothing else that you can do, why now? I'm going to tell you, seriously, and I know you're going to say, you're going to shake your head, but I know you've heard this and seen this too. Because I've never seen this before, but I see it, I understand it. This is the move that was made. My sister and some of your family and friends left the house. We said, no, go back. We convinced her to go back. She moved out. Remember we helped her move? She got another place. She stayed for like 2-3 months. Remember, 3 months, that's the charm. That's the 90-degree angle. That's when you're going to make your changes. That's right. Season change everything much. By the way, today is the 1st of autumn. So happy autumn equinox or fall equinox to everyone. All right? You got to bring in. Right, you got to bring it in. So it's special that you're here today and that we're all here today, because you look around and you find out when you didn't plan it, who are you with on these wonderful, pivotal change of direction comes now. So we're all good that we family, and we're here right now, our energy is being shared to move forward into this new season, all right? Now, so she moves out. We're like, me and my brother's down there, come on, he says, you know, you have nothing to lose. And my son told me, just move back in. She said, you know, nobody's coming around. Anybody come to your door? No, what do? We're so programmed that as soon as they send you a letter, notice of intent to default, it says notice of intent. It didn't say anything but intention. It said we intend to smack you tomorrow. You gonna let us do that? Nah. They're telling you their intent. In law, its intent is everything. But what we do when we see the notice of intent, because we're so brainwashed and sleep, hit in the head, remember, buried in a shallow grave, but we just, the reason why the symbolism is buried in a shallow grave is means you can just really stand up, keep it moving. You ain't got to dust a whole lot of dirt off of it. That's why. Am I right? Right. That's why they say that. So we're thinking that it's something that it isn't, because our people, we all perish for a lack of knowledge. So you think, notice of intent, first thing you want to do is move. That's why they say, okay, tell you what, I'll give you $2,000, help you move. You feeling it? Good, just go ahead, get to going. It's easier for us this way, because we're going to get paid for the insurance as soon as you get out.
Right.
Now, if we got to foreclose to get you out, whatever, that takes a little longer, but we're going to do this. But it really was, you did abandon it. So that's what happened. So she left. We got her to go back. That's amazing. You don't do that for your family who you love, right? Because you know what it's like to move somebody. She never even really moved completely out. Her house was so big. She had so much great stuff in it. Big dining room, sets and stuff. You know, she didn't even get it out all yet. She wasn't really finished, but nobody was knocking on her door telling her to leave anyway. And we were trying to tell her don't leave, but we didn't really tell her don't. It was more like go back.
Because at first she wasn't even sure,
right?
Because she thought you were on some belief stuff that had nothing to do with reality.
That's the other thing.
That's the real truth.
That's the real deal.
Because she was funding the church.
Oh.
Yup.
Oh yeah. But you
They
know what?
built a new building too.
Have you ever noticed that some of the people you know don't become the quote unquote what they think is religious until after they have something happening in their life?
Trauma.
You know, like after the divorce.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I going to do with the children? Everybody tells me I should put them in the church. No, well, all right. Did they become religious? Yeah, those people, right?
They claim to become.
They claim to become. But anyway, so of course, without being said, like you all have experienced, your family thinks you're absolutely off your rocker. But the first should be last and last should be first. Endure that.
Yes.
Because you endured a lot. If you know what you know and have faith in what your knowledge is, you just have to endure that, because the day is coming, if it hasn't already came, and I know for many it already has, where your family's looking at you a little bit different now. They used to think he was really off the rocker. Now they want to hear something, what you got to say. How many can say that's true? All right. All right, so you've endured to this extent, to this part. So just, it's really interesting, but that's how it works. You were set aside from your family so that you could get these lessons.
Right.
If you hadn't been where they were, you would not have gotten these lessons. You wouldn't have walked this way at all. So now they're going to need you.
Right.
And you love them, you always did.
Yes.
The only reason why it's you that was chosen is because you have that love,
Right.
and is able to go back without, because it's pure love, you know? Right?
Right.
Now you look at some of your family members, they wouldn't be so the same, would they? No. So you were chosen. Because many are called, you were chosen because you choose yourself. All right? So now, back to what happened. So that's the general idea. So we're in the court today. And the way that the brother wrote the writs, even her not knowing ever being in the court, that's why I'm so proud of her. She never been in the court. She was just like, oh, you gotta follow the law. She don't know what the law is. But you know, those brothers and sisters that you know. Even with that, the magistrate came out. he laid on a silver platter the 3 reasons that this needs to be dismissed. He just handed it out there. You understand? Because it was written in such a spirit that he couldn't, he even said it. He said, this is an interesting reading. And he couldn't deny the facts that was in it. And of the 3 things, intent, that notice of intent, they withdrew that back, saying that if the notice of intent doesn't have the original holder on it, that has to be dismissed. Well, they took that back because they can't find none that does. But let's move on, because the real issue isn't that anyway. The real issue is what did I say, Taj? The standing.
The standing.
Which means status. That's what I wanted to share with you.
The capacity.
The capacity is what was on the calendar
to make the claim in the first place.
To make the claim.
Yep.
That's the end. Because he said, well, all right, about the intent, this is defective writ. We don't want to talk about it. Nick's like what he said about that. He learned something from that today. And then he says, well, as far as whether they answered the discovery or not, because that's questionable, because if you got 10 questions in discovery and they answer 9, they didn't answer the discovery. So it's like, okay, do we fuss over this? Did they answer it or not? He says, but really, even if we did or we didn't, that's what he said. Right. He said, really, what's left is the standing.
Yes.
What's left is the standing.
The status.
Ran it down to them. You cannot show where you are the owner, or where the owner has given you you have no personal right to give you any written thing that says, here, do this with that. And guess what? They never will.
Now, what do you recognize right there?
That we're talking about status.
You're talking about estate.
Estate, correct, yeah. Yes.
You see? So, when you start speaking up, and you put it in an affidavit, not motion, the trustee must answer.
Right.
And if they fail to answer, whatever their argument is, it doesn't matter. Exactly. It's dead.
Yes.
Yes.
Covered all doors.
Yes.
Knowing that they would try to dismiss things, but it locked all the windows.
Yes, it did. It did.
Yes, it locked all the windows.
Now I want to add this. And make I want to add this.
I understand this.
We've been brainwashed to think so much that that's phoniness that they put in front of us is correct. That my sister said, and then she caught herself. She realized, well, I straightened her out afterwards. Oh, okay, wow, now I can get a loan or something, with the house. I'm like, what?
See now listen. This is very important.
Let me complete this. I said, you just took this property out of the corporate market.
Yes.
You will not be turning around and putting it back in to get some fiat? That isn't real money from finance, but I knew she didn't.
She's going to admit to jurisdiction.
So I didn't go there. I just said, you just took it out of the corporate market. You can't put it back. No. You keep it. If you don't want to be there, give it to your sons, since 2 sons who were growing up, or give it to someone else who needs it. Right. But this is what I told her. It's not so much, this isn't about her attacking her in any way. She just didn't know. I told her, you can never sell this. Because now that you have it, and it's considered, dismissed with prejudice, or without prejudice, but then in 3 months, we'll come back and dismiss it with prejudice so that nobody can ever even come on it. They can't anyway. Because I know the long and the short of it, if we have to, we're just going to claim it anyway, being nationals, but go through the thing. So anyway, so the thing is this, is that you can't sell it. Well, do you have a title? No. Well, I can't get. How you gonna get a title? They can't give you a title. They don't have.
Because they're not going to give you title.
They don't have a title.
They only have these.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly. There you go. Oh, you already had it up there. They don't have the title to give you to sell it. So now wait. Let me just finish this thought. You can't sell it. You don't have the title. But really, if you wanted the title, you'd have to make it yourself. And if you're going to make it yourself,
back up.
Wait a minute. No, you'd have to be in your natural status position. This is why I told her. So, see, see how we ran right to the point.
Come right back to the
point.
principle. You can only be the true heir.
Exactly.
Meaning that they can bounce you all around, and these banks can use all these commercial instruments, and they can operate on their 10 points of the uniform commercial codes and put you in an adhesion. But when it all blows by, if you come to the argument with the proper concepts, they're going to have to admit that they're maintaining slavery. But once you get off the auction block, you better go nationalize if you're serious, because they're going to come back.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Now, and let me add this, because I want my son to ask. So I said, so you would have to have in your natural status. But here's the deal. Remember who we are. This is our state. This is our inheritance. We don't need to make a title to nothing at all, because if you make a will, it is considered you sold something. Do not make a will to give to your children. Inheritance means it's inherited, posterity. It's inherited. You claim the land and whatever's on it, the property, the home, or whatever. You know, you acquire it, you claim it, you possess it. That means you go live in it or whatever, you possess it. And then it goes down like that. So it's an inheritance. It cannot have. And you can't sell it.
You don't put a commercial title on, because birthright cannot be placed on a commercial venue, because as soon as you put it on a commercial venue, you're putting it up for sale. Exactly. Whether it's at the moment or later,
yes,
it is not unalienable. Things alienable that can be sold or transferred to another. This is why it's important for people to really understand birthright.
Now,
and not get tricked.
That's right, because believe me, it's right there before us. Miss, would you like to just share what the person? Oh yeah, check it out. One other last thing. Yeah, this is good. You got to share this, and I'm done. The people who were the lawyer's office, supposedly lawyers, because they're not lawyers, because lawyer means lawman, means layman, means common man, means you're the only lawyer. They are attorneys. They are at law. So yes, you are a lawyer, because it's a layman. That's why the definition of a civilian says one who is what? Skilled in the law. Read it. So that you and I. But they were on the phone. They never even came into the courtroom. So they're on the phone and
officers of the court.
Yeah, right. And the magistrate says, can you show us where you actually, that this particular company is not the servicer, not just the servicer, but actually the holder? Can you show that? Oh yeah, it's right there in the first line. It says, okay, I read it. It says that such and such company acquired this either by loan or by. You don't even know. It says it could have been this, it could have been that, but this is what they're used to doing. They're not used to having to be held to the law. Hold it to the law. Prophet Noah Ali said, enforce the law, enforce the Constitution. That's what Bey said we're supposed to be doing. Now, at one point, the attorney's office on the other end, because every time we come, they have a different one. Because they'll send one, right? Get beat up, right? Go back. No, I'm serious. Every time we go, one time it was a woman, European, send somebody else out there. This time we think they said, well, go ahead. You just started in the law firm, you go try. Because, beat them up. But like again, the brother who wrote the writ, all honest to him, all power. But Mick picked up something really interesting. And that was that they said, well, I feel that we have the loan because what happened after that, Mick? Please.
Microphone.
Yes, peace. Thank you. I'm done.
It's fine. Love for family. Come to your sister's aid.
Peace. Just to share on the experience we had today, it was very interesting because, I personally, I don't like going into the Roman venues, but every time I do, I learn something, or either something I already know gets affirmed. And it was very interesting that somebody had mentioned the word feel, F-E-E-L, in the court. And the magistrate said, feel, I don't think that's the right word. Now, me listening from an impartial perspective, I said, that's an admission to how powerful the words you use actually are when you're communicating with these people.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? Because when you look at language, it's like the land gauge. So this is how we gauge on this land is through the language.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know the proper words, if you don't assert the proper language, they're going to esteem you as not knowing what you're talking about.
In other words, you must navigate with the compass and the square in the linguistic art of symboliography that certainly they are using.
Indeed, indeed. So basically, it boils back down to knowing what all these little glyphs conjuncted mean, what they express when you say them, because whatever language you look at, as you were saying earlier, the English language is a hybrid language of Latin, Hebrew, and all types of languages. It's just everything.
For international trade.
Right.
It is.
But it was highly interesting to me just to get that affirmation that, the magistrate clearly said, I don't think that's the right word. He could have said, I don't think you know what you're talking about, or, what you said doesn't have any weight or whatever. But for him to say, I don't think that's the right word, is just another affirmation of, the language that you use really holds all the weight whenever, not just in the courtroom, but anywhere you're at. In your bridge, it has to reflect the right
Because
language.
he was telling him it's not about what you feel. He's asking him a direct question.
Right.
Knows.
Right.
Yes. And those beliefs are out the door.
Yeah, the beliefs were out the door.
Yeah, indeed. And another thing, now she didn't go in there making the estate argument fully, but it's her learning experience because she doesn't even really know how to affirm or assert an objection yet. You see what I'm saying? So it's a learning experience for her. But it was just pretty interesting that, the magistrate, he said, well, if it was me, I would at least want to know, who's this person who's claiming they hold the bill.
He said it was my home. That's
Right.
what he said.
Holder in due course, the true holder in due
But
course.
let's say this, the brother who wrote the writ, right, who
Yeah.
studied it, he said he wrote it with the law but with consciousness, which means he's applying to the mind of man. So, and he said that afterwards, because man is mine, because the magistrate in fact said, well, if it were my home, I would at least want to know who it was that owned it.
Mm-hmm.
You see? And that's because the spirit of his writ wrote to the mind.
Right, and some of the case laws in there, the actual magistrate had ruled on, so it's not, he
He
can't
was
put his
a part
foot
of
Because you
the
paint him in the corner.
He couldn't go
he
get
couldn't
his own-
put
Because
his-
what's he going to do? Contradict stare decisis?
Exactly.
Could you say that in the mic, please?
What?
What
Come
you
over here and
just
say it
said?
to the mic.
What did I say?
Hey, what state were you
About
in?
the
What state were
person
you in?
who wrote
Well,
the writ.
as
She's
a
in the
national-
spirit right now. What's he say?
The person who wrote the writ.
Was
I
it
said the person who wrote the writ wrote it with the person who wrote the writ wrote it with the spirit of appealing to the consciousness, which means to the mind. And as my son said, because man is mind, and this is
Not
why.
that I said it, that's what.
That's what it is. And so lost my train of thought.
No, this is what it is. Keep in
But so
mind.
what it is, well, let me just
He's
say.
a magi.
He wrote it with the spirit. So this is why, with the spirit of consciousness appealing to the mind, which is why, in fact, that's why the magistrate said, well, if it was my home, I would want to know where it came from, like that. Yeah.
So what he's setting up is the obvious judgment.
Exactly.
He was excellent. McDonald's.
Yes. Plus he already knows. Plus he knows he's going to go down in history, and he don't want to be on the wrong side of history.
What
Because
state?
we're coming after the tail.
What state was the video in?
Oh, and the so-called New Jersey.
Quasi-national
Oh
domicile.
yeah, can you explain the difference? Because I love it, between the national domicile, quasi-national domicile, and then the municipal. That's important because if we get that tied,
That's
we got
Black's
this.
law right there.
Yes.
Because that's why. Can I say this? That's why in our writs we say, in the jurisdiction of my ancestral estate, which is north, south, and yeah, right?
Yeah.
When they say to you in the jurisdiction of Delaware
Here you go, Mike.
Township, you say no, in the jurisdiction of my ancestral state, you trump and you rebut just by that one line that it's about your ancestral state,
Domicile,
which
D-O-M-I-C-I-L.
trumps everything.
In the jurisdiction of our ancestors.
And see your state, there you go. Now, see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That kills all this stuff with a sword.
Slash national domicile. As
Now,
my
national
brother
domicile.
said right here, that's like holy water and garlic smoothie.
The national domicile, the quasi-domicile.
You go. You go.
Okay, all right, true. Okay, well, because I could explain to you, but I'm going to read it straight from the text so we could be on the same page.
Yes.
Because it's an old maxim. Thank you. It's an old maxim that you know, we can't understand each other unless we're on the same page. Excuse me. So I'm just going to read from the same page where I got my enlightenment and understanding from. Okay. And this is under the definition of domicile. Anybody who's done sincere studies in law dictionaries recognize certain definitions. You look up, they'll have sub-definitions. Like you could look up bond, and under it they'll have indemnity bond or something like that. It'll be a sub-definition. So looking at domicile, it's a bunch of different domiciles, de facto domicile, but three important ones that stood out and caught my attention was municipal domicile, national domicile, and quasi-national domicile. And I was building with the
Yes.
brother Taj on this briefly the other day
Yes.
about how important the domicile laws are.
Yes.
All right, so I'm just going to read these three definitions, and if we could all walk away with some sort of understanding, that's great. Okay, so now municipal domicile is one which has distinguished from national domicile, meaning that's a contrast right there, meaning it's diversity of domicile right there, okay? So municipal domicile, one which has distinguished from national domicile and quasi-national domicile. See, those titles infer has reference to residence in a county, township, or municipality. That's Hayward versus Hayward, 65, Indiana. Okay, so when you're talking about, you know, you stay in, let's say Dover or Delaware County or Dover Township, whatever it may be, that's referencing a municipal domicile.
And understand that's another reason why they ask you where you live.
Yeah.
And as soon as you say that, you've just created a jurisdiction.
Exactly.
All right. Because you can only live in your body.
We say
All right.
municipal domicile, quasi.
Quasi-national domicile and national domicile. And this is on page 573 of the 4th edition Black's Law Dictionary. Okay, and then national domicile says, the domicile of a person considered as being within the territory of a particular nation and not with reference to a particular locality or subdivision of a nation.
See nationality?
So that would be exactly.
See nationality?
So, you know, that would be referencing, you know, North America, Northwest of Mexico, Northwest Africa. Okay, those are appellations for a national domicile.
And terra means earth.
Exactly.
Now, you understand the heading, when I told you to use the full heading?
Terrestrial.
Yes.
Celestial, terrestrial.
Yes, and as we talked earlier, when I said that's just for simple correspondence, but in serious matters, use the complete heading. All right, continue.
All right. And then we have quasi-national domicile, and emphasis on the word quasi. And it's funny because it's to the point where they're bold now in the municipal venues. They'll tell you straight up, this is a quasi-criminal court. You know what I mean?
Which means colorable.
Exactly. Like, we was there one time and he said that straight up. But, you know, sometimes some things slip past us and we don't really recognize, like, oh, that was the boot to smack him with right there. But that's what it is, okay?
Oh, no, I remember when we were in Pleasantville?
Yeah.
No, that's when I went there.
Allegedly.
When I went there with no paperwork, because I thought that I was going to just get a little, like, I said, oh, I don't feel like having this fight. I was going to give them 40 notes for a ticket or something, and they wanted 200. I said, oh, heavens, no. And I didn't have any paperwork in. And I asked them, well, what kind of court is this? And they said, quasi-criminal. I was just trying to get enough to get out
So, I mean, so I could get back with the paperwork. I knew
Right,
it. I knew what it
right.
was.
She ended up,
That creates
being
an
in
injunction.
that situation as well,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
just for the record. we did
No,
that.
and matter of fact, he's not sitting on, by the way, he's down on the bench when they fired him.
Finally, huh?
Yeah.
They fired him. They said,
All right.
you're practicing law on the bench, you're not going away. We
Oh,
want
good,
us to
that's
go."
what you supposed to
But
tell
that's
them.
the writ that
Yeah,
we had put
exactly.
in, and, Mel Free put one in, and somebody else put one in their territory.
Exactly.
Right out, I'm
There you
telling
go.
you, the active, it works. It works.
Power of writs.
They don't tell you that it works because of that,
They don't want you
but
to
it
know.
does.
They're gonna start throwing each other under the bus.
Yeah.
Continue.
All right. Now, quasi-national domicile. And remember, these are 3 different jurisdictions you're talking about. So you got municipal domicile, which is referencing the county, a township, or municipality, which is basically a subordinate jurisdiction of a quasi-national domicile. All right, so quasi-national domicile is one involving residents in a state, quote unquote. And that's Hayward versus Hayward as well. So if you say, you know, I live in Delaware, or, you know, I domicile in
Yes.
New Jersey, okay, that's quasi, that's colored,
Yes.
because those are subdivisions of this national domicile, which us as Moors are heirs to, being North America, South America, Central America, you know, that's the national domicile, or Northwest Mexico, Northwest Africa, North America.
That's national.
So we hurt ourselves
National,
when we use anything other than a national domicile.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
with that
Given the
consideration,
jurisdiction.
And
yes,
$7.
with that consideration, keep in mind,
Anybody got a highlighter?
no, I got one, but I ain't, because I got it marked already in my, I got it marked in my other law dictionary. But, listen, and this is back to what we were talking about earlier, because this is how serious that is, what we were talking about earlier. And this is why, when we always mention to you all, you know, in our casual conversation, but yet it is serious, when you're doing your paperwork, while we tell you do 8x14 so your seals can be there, and you fly your colors, which means you're not an abandoned ship, it automatically establishes national domicile. Without any context under it, they already are challenged. You don't have to claim injunction. It automatically, and this is why it kills the system. But this is also why they try to override, because it's dead. I mean, like you just checked them. You know, they're getting ready to move, you know, like doing the chest. Yeah, these turkeys, they Negroes, they don't know nothing. And they're getting ready to move, and then look, and the board's already checked. How's that? They're already in check. Then this is really what happens in law. Do you understand? Now,
That's what's happening.
what happens is, what we're trying to do is spiritually get you to that comprehension that that's what you've actually done. Knowing that some of us doubt ourselves because we don't totally understand the concepts. And so this allows that gray area where people can try to sell you packages or make you bounce through a whole bunch of other systems to get to somewhere that you're already standing.
Yes, yes, that's what's so great.
And it's not that, you know, you can run around the room if you feel like and come back here and stand. I mean, if you need that exercise, go ahead and do that. But if you really understand and comprehend what's really going on here, if you declare your nationality and really comprehend what it means, then you travel without moving. Do you understand?
Yes.
This is where we're trying to get you. And trying to get you brave enough to be brave enough to smack Goliath upside the head with his own stuff.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Yes.
But understand his own stuff ain't his stuff.
Right.
It's yours.
Exactly.
Because the same light that was given to them to bring them out of the medieval period into the modern age, which is that mathematics, that geometry, that compass and the square, the 7 liberal arts, astrology, astronomy, cosmogony, mathematics, trigonometry, etc., is mother and son knowledge, masonry, which is your knowledge. And our issue is to give it back to you uncorrupted. Because that's what takes Goliath's head.
Yes.
And you take that sword from over the head of the Sphinx, and then come on the handle side. It's better to be on the handle side because it's a two-edged sword, and it has a crescent at the tip. But don't that crescent govern the room of woman?
Yes.
So mom is back in the house
That's right.
and cleaning up. Now you can decide whether you want to honor your mothers and fathers or you want your head off. Because that's what it's coming to.
Yes.
Now you understand why Hillary's speaking to the world with that Moorish flag up there? See, world, stop burning embassies. We're not doing human trafficking here.
Flag of the people up. Now,
You
Mama
understand?
Mama Julie said what time? She said, I'm going to make the European tell the truth.
Make the European tell the truth.
And they're doing
But let's look at this. Because it's getting late, so we're going to have to start closing out.
Yes, yes.
But listen. As you're developing in this consciousness, and it's only because we're exercising, we're purging. Translation, you're being baptized. You must understand that this work was what we done 80 years ago. So when you look at the conflict that's going on, it may distract you a little bit, but don't be deceived. Understand the fundamentals and free your mind. Because until you free your mind, forget about your property. Do you understand? Because the people are destroyed by the day for a lack of knowledge, not a lack of salat, not a lack of prayer, not a lack of faith, and not a lack of tithing. A lack of knowledge. And so we know that we can't undo in a few sessions what Rome has had a chance to do for generations. However, we can kick them in the shins, even though they got legs of iron. But when you kick them in the shins, make sure you're only kicking them in the shins so that your foot can slide down to the clay feet. Because when you step on the clay feet, they kind of crack, and the weight of the iron pulverizes the foundation.
Right.
So that monster ain't so bad after all, is it?
That's right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
And the feet represent foundation. The foundation is weak, but everybody's looking at the big front. Do you understand? This is why Dawood was able to go into the stream and pick up 5 smooth stones, but he only needed one. The 5 principles, and struck him in the pineal gland. And then Goliath fell, and he took Goliath's own sword.
That's right.
Can you
Cut
say
his
something
head
about
off.
Samson, does that
Yes.
correlate?
Yes.
Is that David?
Because that's all it really means, is conquering the lower self.
Right.
Because it's allegorical. It's Kabbalistic. But it must be comprehended or told from the beginning so that the people don't go to sleep. If they're not told the truth from the beginning, setting the proper foundation, they will come under the spell of Rome. Because the book does 2 things. It makes you speculative or operative. Do you understand? You'll be operative if you understand its Kabbalistic base. Speculative if you fall for the priesthood version. Do you understand? Which is why you're here. Which means, yes, you can use a lot of tools if that's what you feel like. You know? You can use a compass and a square if you want to build this building. And you can use a compass and a square if you want to build this building. But you better learn to navigate and remove the mystery. All right? Anyway, we're going to close out. Any questions?
You know, I stay
Finish up.
I just wanted to add just one last thing.
Go ahead.
This is domiciled with a D, just domiciled. It says established in a given domicile belonging to a given state or jurisdiction by right of domicile.
And so therefore, if you're going to start to talking rights, if you're going to start talking property, anything, now you also understand why we emphasize with the Moors how you receive mail, why you don't abbreviate
Right.
why you put care of
Right.
before the location, which you call the address, and you never say my address,
Right.
you never say my license, you never say my marriage certificate, you never say my birth certificate, because when you word it wrong, you have just sanctioned them, which is why they teach connotative linguistics in our community. This is why the prophet set up the Moorish Holy Temple of Science to correct your words, because you cast spells. And you better learn how to spell, because if you don't, they're spelling on you. And it's the very people you've trusted. Do you understand? This is why in all the rituals that they do in the secret societies, first they have your boys beat you up. Your friends. The whole point to warn you. But that's not necessary anymore, because this is the age of Aquarius and the light has come. It is your duty to come into the light and honor your mothers and fathers, that your days may be longer upon the earth land which the Lord thy God has given thee. Peace. That's where I
Listen, we just forgot, we gotta close out, but we forgot this.
Yeah. They got
everybody,
but read it anyway.
did everyone get one of these? Oh, all right.
I didn't get one.
All right, yeah, I'll get you one. I'll give you
I
one.
want one.
It's
Listen,
on. It's
I'm
on.
not gonna read the whole thing, but check it out. United States Senate, can I see your glasses real please?
Yeah.
All right. Listen, this is on taxes, 1989. United States Senate. You already really read it. It's from, check it out. It is addressed to a Mr. Fred M. Ortiz, tax consultant. And it says, Dear Mr. Ortiz, on behalf of Senator Anoyi, I am writing in further response to your inquiry regarding the precise provisions of the Internal Revenue Code, IRS, that render an individual liable for income taxes. Based on the research performed by the Congressional Research Service, there is no provision which specifically and unequivocally requires an individual to pay income taxes. All right. Now, who are you?
Remember, it's the same Congress. This is the Senate.
Are you?
You understand?
Right, and then it goes on into Article 1, Section 8, telling you what and who does that the Congress. It says, Section 8, Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution accords the Congress the power to lay and collect taxes. Is the IRS the Congress?
No.
Is the store up the street the Congress?
No.
All right. Taxes were never meant for the natural people. Sales taxes
They're
are
for
for
corporations.
corporations.
Only.
My son, where did he go? He effectuates that by saying so. He says, oh, no, we pay sales taxes, that's for corporations. And a lot of the people, and they can do the finance back, especially in like smaller shops, a lot of them are what we call foreigners that come here. Believe me, they're not paying those taxes. You're a fool to pay their taxes. They are not paying them. What you have to say is, taxes are for corporations. We are the natural people. They're not meant for us. Guarantee you, they're not going to make no big deal out of it because they're not paying them anyway. They don't want you to call the IRS on them, which is only, the IRS is only a tax accounting firm or agency for hire. Anybody could hire them. So this is what it is. So this is in 1989. All of this is already up on the site, matter of fact, on what's new. And then there's a 17-page document what he gave me, and the first 4 pages or so is nothing, consistent nothing but case laws saying why and how you don't have to pay taxes based on already, you see it it's already existing. All right. So and then one last thing, you also have to know what income tax is. And
what
when
it
you're
is
working
not.
every day, that's labor wages, it's not income taxes.
And that's
you
confused
agreed
about
that they were
taxes.
income taxes because you signed the thing and called them such. They're like, okay, you say they're income, you say your labor wages are income taxes. But they do that and they ask you to mark down what you spend. What you spending?
Yes.
This, gas, babysitting, food, this. Why? Because they're seeing you as the corporation. And when they're finished with you saying how much you spent on all the things, the babysitting, the travel, the this and the thus, then they look, okay, what's left? All right, we're going to tax that then. Because they see you as the corporation.
They don't see you as a corporation.
Well,
They misclassified you deliberately as a corporation under the 14th Amendment.
Right, which is a codicil to establish a new type of, no, not government, a new type of citizen, which is for
Artificial citizen,
artificial people.
that's when they closed the Freedmen's Bureau and created the Negro through the 14th Amendment so they could bureaucratize slavery. Islam, good brother.
Peace, that's it.
Islam. W-2 form falls under Title V. Taxes on Title V start at $5 million.
Yes,
So your taxes are being misfiled
yes.
to make you owe money.
Now, we're going to close out, but understand the relationship.
Yes.
I need to get that, Todd.
Record your words.
I need to get what you,
Did you have a question?
Islam,
When you have very pays attention for me.
Islam and peace, and I said Islam from the bottom of my heart because Islam means peace, and some people think Islam means Arabic and so forth, so on. But I'm happy to see you here, and brothers and sisters, because you always broaden my horizon. I stand in the jurisdiction of Morocco, where they teach us, you have these Afrocentric movements, got
Yes.
our people thinking that we came from Africa and trying to teach about the ancestors, but they blocking people from getting their birthright. They told us we came over on a ship, but the ship is a courtroom.
that's exactly right.
They handcuff you like
That's
this,
when you
they-
came, that's when you arrived.
and so forth and so on. So,
Bottom
in the Moorish Science Temple, Islam simply means peace. So when you talk and say Islam did this, so forth, so on, that's negative. So I'm still learning my degrees of Islam by being introduced to Taj and Sister Raj, so forth, so on. But I've been on this level of time, this undiscovered country with no born child returns for years and stuff, but I never self-actualized because it's lifetime of preparation, Islam.
Islam. That's a long lesson. That's it. That's right. Islam.
Now, so I'm going to read the foundation upon which the lecture is built. We'll have a couple more questions and close out because I know Sister Nyla is tired doing 5 jobs in her one. But Sister, look good day, ain't she? Yeah. Open it up. Did they steal your shoes yet? Check your foundation. Make sure you just ain't got socks on. The little kicks is tight, ain't they? Anyway, chapter 12 of the book of Revelation. And there appeared a great wonder in the heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 7 stars. And she, being with child, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head, and his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, to devour her child as soon as it was born. I declare that he will have no lunch this time. Islam.
Islam, everybody. I have a Black Dictionary, 4th edition, used for sale for $50.
I want it right now. You got it?
I want right now. Give me that peanut butter sandwich right now. I was going to give you I want that peanut butter sandwich. Yes.
They have to do that.
All right, I'll pick it up later. I'll pick it up next time.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, no, you can get into it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that.